My first experience that I can remember is these beings coming through. It was through a wall, actually, in my room. And they would take me, somehow I ended up being able to go through the wall with them.
How old were you?
I'd say about 5, 6 years old.
So what were you watching when they came through the wall? Did you actually see them come through the wall?
Yes.
Describe that for me, please.
They looked like what I would say static. So like light particles, and would more solidify once they came through the wall, and be a little more solid. And then I would watch my body do the same thing, and then I would move through the wall, and then I would be in a ship, like physically on a metal-ish, solid, I don't know that it was metal, but solid, cool surface in the ship. And I feel like I want to clarify, I've had all types of contact experience. So there's some that I know are my lab.
What's that mean?
My lab's more governmental kind, more black ops type experiences. Some are more astral type experiences, and others are these beings that are more what I would consider to be higher dimensional, in consciousness, in their heart, so more heart-spaced, and I consider them to be family. So the one being that came to me the most, and my sister as well, I would call her mom. So when she would bring us back to the house, I would feel really sad for a while because I felt like she was leaving me here.
Lisa, can you describe what the visual was when the particles of the wall opened up, the being came through? What is the being?
Tall, they were tall, more, it's like they moved almost like they did, it's almost like rubbery. So real graceful, I'd call them graceful. So they would be like light, so they looked like little beads of light. And then they would solidify, and it looked like they had a glow, like from the inside out, like they were glowing.
Were they humanoid looking like us?
So head, 2 arms, legs, no genitals, just long, tall
What color
beings.
were
Silvery, purplish, blue, kind of iridescent.
they? Eyes?
Big, big, big eyes.
What color?
Deep, like a shell. So like in shells or oil where it looks like that. So they were like, what I would say like oil. No iris or anything like that, just all deep one color. Almond, big.
So those classic
Big.
tapering off
Yeah,
eyes?
but not like where they come up and wrap around. More like mine, but bigger. Yeah.
And fully black?
Fully black, but with color in them, like oil.
Like oil, like it reflects a little bluish purple. And any ears, mouth, nose?
Real light, kind of really tiny looking ears. Indents, but poked out just a tiny, tiny bit, like if there's a ridge. And then mouth is just very, very, it's there, but really tiny. All telepathic, no verbal.
So they communicated telepathically.
But it's more like experience, telepath, not like words. So instead of words, it would be like a, so they'd communicate through feelings, emotions, thoughts. It was a whole picture down, like just put into my mind.
So did you respond with any sense of fear, comfort? What was your emotional experience?
With the one that I'm describing now, comfort. It's like home, like very soft and nurturing experience.
So tell me what happened next. You're going through the wall, and then what?
I'm on the ship. With this particular experience, I wasn't on a table. I was in what I call like a control room type thing, and they had all these little floating, I'd call them screens, but they had images on the screens, and so like different scenarios of things.
Like what, for example?
Like for instance, say someone was getting hurt, and then people were running to them and helping them.
Human people?
Humans, yeah, all humans. And then like another one was an animal attacking somebody. And what I discovered later is it had to do with the response, the emotional response, the compassion, the need to help. It's like they were learning and tracking how I was responding.
So this was an experiment to see your emotional response to attacks on innocent beings, animal and human. What happened next?
So that went on for a while, and then we moved to another room in this particular memory, where my sister and I, it was like we had an object, like what, kind of like a ball, but there it was more like an orb, like see-through, and we were passing it back and forth and doing things with it.
And you were passing them back and forth physically or using your mental power?
Mentally.
So
it was floating, like to her and then to me, and then there were other ones in the room watching us do this thing. And so at one point it was like we could feel this excitement or joy or some kind of a enthusiasm about it, and the ball went from me to that being automatically. So I don't know if they pulled it to them or if it was like a response to give it to them, because I felt good about their reaction.
This is happening with
my twin sister.
Your twin sister at the age of?
That wouldn't be my five-year-old. I was about 8, I'd say around 8 years old.
Combining those experiences.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else is in the craft? Can you describe it for me?
Everything is lit. It's all lit up, like as if it's got its own light, like it's lit from the inside. So there's no lights. I didn't see any lights in the ship. It's like it just kind of glows from the inside. And it's bigger than it looked like. So it's like as if you could go into one room and then expand it into another room and then do another room. Like everything's round.
So no square
gel,
edges?
No square edges. Everything's soft, almost gel-like. Like if you were to touch it, your finger would go kind of in a little bit. And even when you were walking on, things felt cold to me, but it was not an uncomfortable cold, not like, so I'm thinking of the MyLab type experiences, not like that. So those kinds of experiences are very solid and like the metal table that I was starting to go into before. But these were very gentle, everything's soft. So even if we laid down on something, there's a comfort to it. Even though it felt cool to the touch, there's a warmth feeling about it.
So how long would these sessions last for? They come in the night once you've gone to bed. And you were being subjected to tests of a kind of mental, psychic kind?
That's what I'd say now, yes.
Were there any tests that were of a physical nature?
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
A lot of testing like around the throat and face, but also reproductive.
At that age?
At that age, yeah. All the way up until my teens.
And so this happened on a physical level multiple times?
Multiple times.
Was there ever always with the same people?
No, different. There were ones that changed. So some of the beings that I connected with that were these, like the comforting ones, it wasn't scary. Because I could feel that there's a connection there. It felt like I was at the doctor. Like it was meant to happen. The other experiences that I had felt much more aggressive. No emotional connection to those beings. It felt like rape. It was not a good feeling.
What were these beings like? Can you describe them?
So those are really, really tiny. Like as small as I was, like as a child, as small as I was. So we'd be able to look right into each other's eyes.
So this at the age of about 8, you're saying?
About 8.
So about the size of a child who's 8 years old, maybe 3.5 feet.
Yeah, and I was really small then. Anyway, smaller than most. So yeah, they would look me straight in the eye, and it felt like the fight, flight, or freeze, but when you freeze. So I would feel that, like just a frozen, like something's coming over me. And if anybody was in the room, there's a tendency for them to be like it's like everybody has anesthesia. There were times where all my siblings were in the room when I would.
3 of them.
Well, I had other siblings too.
Oh.
And everyone would, I could shake them and they wouldn't move.
Now, this is happening on a physical 3D level, or is it on another dimension?
Physical.
Physical. And your sisters recall that as well?
My sister, so my oldest triplet sister has crossed over. She's not here. She's died at 18 months old. But my triplet sister, she's alive. She recalls things here and there, but she won't admit to any of it. It's
Why?
because of religious, and because of she's afraid of what people will think. So she says it's all made up. It's pretend. We just had good imagination.
So let's go back. So
Okay.
these were different beings, and were they related at all to the ones that you felt comfortable and home with? How did they access you if they were not of the same affinity?
Well, what I've since realized is there's a part of, I've done some work for myself to figure this out with different therapies. And one of the experiences that I had was realizing that I, on a soul level, contracted to have both experiences for the genetic experiences with both. So it's about assisting another type of being that has a more negative way of living to give them the experience of something positive. It's assisting everyone in their spiritual growth. So me going with them was part of my growth, but also theirs.
You said something that captured my imagination. You mentioned that you believed it was for a DNA experience exchange. Were they affecting your DNA, do you think, or were they extracting something from you?
Both.
Tell me what
Both.
you know.
So what I know for myself is that some of these beings have evolved into so much intellectual, so left brain that they've moved out of their emotional connection, their empathy, and so they're wanting to learn and understand so that they can come back into center, into the heart, and understand what compassion is and what love is. And even the ones that I felt that love and compassion with, they were cultivating that. They were still learning more and more about that, even though I felt it from them. They're still learning and growing. The others, the littler ones, those don't even feel like they have an actual soul. They're like robotic. There's no, but the people that work with them or created them have the same issue as the ones who came out of their emotional body, and they're headed in that direction.
The little ones, are they considered what some people call the little grays?
I'd say yes.
And the ones who created the little grays, are they connected to the benevolent ones that you liked initially?
That's a good question. I think yes. I don't think directly in my experience, but yes, I do feel that there's some kind of a connection there. The people who created those are headed in the direction, though, of these other grays that are more artificial in their being, like not as much of a compassionate nature.
So you had an experience where you feel there was a kind of violation, and that was probing of like a mechanical or way, or was it a body-to-body violation?
It was mechanical.
Mechanical, like they were exploring for something. Did you experience any pain?
Yes.
And was there any scarring left that you know of?
Yes.
So you have
I've
physical...
had to have my uterus removed because of a lot of the damage.
At what point in your life?
I haven't talked about any of that.
We don't have to go there.
It's okay, we can. Just decompose.
Take your time.
Okay. It's something that I knew before I went into having to get my uterus removed. So I've had 3 children, physical children, not from the, but with each one of them, what I didn't realize was the damage at the time. I didn't realize that the damage that had been done created a lot of issues around inflammation and other scarring in my body. So after I had my 3 children, that was even more prevalent in my body. So I had a lot of pain and inflammation in my uterus. So I had to get my uterus removed. I didn't realize at the time that's what it was. Later on, everything clicked. The more memory I had of everything.
When your doctors examined you before you had even your first child, did they observe any physical challenges that were a flag to what may be problematic further down the road?
That I wouldn't say no, because I got married when I was 19. So it was pretty early on. There was not a lot. I had 1 exam before I got pregnant.
So
Nothing, yeah. I did have a lot of pain, but they never told me what it was. Nobody ever had any advice about that.
when you were undergoing all your experiences on craft, because you were jumping a little bit. You had one at around the age of 6 with a loving, benevolent, family-like presence who you called mom. You jumped to an experience when you were around 8 years old where there was the small, childlike sized greys who were violating you physically. And that's all we've discussed so far.
Yeah.
I want to know, was there any sense of communication from any of them while this was ongoing?
Yes.
What do you remember or understand of that communication?
What I remember and understand with the more compassionate ones is that somehow we're family. So that's why I would call her, I would say her, mom, was because there was a sense of communication and community with them. In fact, I've never said this before either, but I remember feeling like my parents weren't actually my parents, that this was my real family. So when they would come and bring me back to the house, I'd wonder why my mom was leaving. So I'd often feel like I was being left behind here.
Did you share that with anybody?
I talked to my parents about it.
What happened?
Well, so because I was born early, there's this attachment issue. So a lot of what I did as a child was considered just growth and development issues and attachment problems. So it wasn't seen as anything unusual. It was just like, oh, that's just developmental problems.
When you shared the story of your abduction experience to your parents, what did they say?
They thought I had a good imagination. They just were like, oh, that's good imagination. And when I would tell them about them coming through the wall, so my mom has a memory of this. She still talks about how I used to say that everything came out of the wall and that I couldn't say my L's. So I'd say, Mom, it's coming out of the wall. It's coming out of the wall. And so she remembers things like that, but it's a different perspective because from her mind, especially now because she's a counselor, it's just attachment stuff. It was trauma that I was working through, which some of this stuff is traumatic. So there's truth in that.
That's an interesting point that you bring up, because how does one, and there's so many people who have experiences, some are very physical, some are much more subtle. How does one discriminate between a trauma projected onto a story that is more manageable versus it happened that way and that's your memory, versus I just have a great imagination. How do I understand certain energies in my young nervous system? And so the pictures in the brain become a certain way. How do you, for example, distinguish between all that?
It's taken me a lot of years to get there. And actually, for me, my discernment came much later when I started to have the memories, other detailed parts of these memories, because before I thought it was, some of this stuff I thought was my imagination. And so I did go to counseling for attachment, issues and other therapeutic things. So for me, it was doing both. I feel like there's a balance in having more of a traditional type therapy, as well as looking at the energetic and exploring through meditation and other ways. To me, they blend. So you've got the energetic, you've got the psychological, and they connect. And so to say that there is a definite line is inaccurate. It blends. So really having a discernment from the heart is the main thing, coming from high heart, like a pure place. If you're coming from a place of like, I have this story that I need to share with everybody because I am so-and-so, well then it's coming from a place of power and ego. So knowing how to discern in that way is important. In fact, the reason I'm doing this interview is for that. I want people to know it's okay to talk about this and to stop being afraid of the stigma of you're crazy, because the truth is that those of us who had these types of experiences that talk about it more in the indigenous cultures would be the spiritual leaders. So, and we're all those, is the thing. All of us are. We're all coming into that realization together and realizing that the mental illness stigma that's been placed on all of this, there are people who are off in reality, yes, that get lost in it, and yet this is more normal than people want to admit. It's about really seeing each other clearly beyond all the things we've been conditioned to think about other human beings. It's to be in our heart, and it sounds kind of hippie-ish, but that's the message. It's about love. It's about going beyond the ego. It's going beyond our personal story and connecting one-on-one and in groups, and getting beyond competition and becoming cooperative with each other. That's what it's about.